Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk to you about mobile phones. I was probably one of the last people I know to actually buy a mobile phone because I actually don't like telephones at all. And my idea of hell is probably one where I have to answer the phone all the time and have to have lots of conversations with people. When I do have to use a telephone, I prefer it to be short and to the point, just to organize what I have to do or where I'm meeting somebody, and then that's it. I find that if I speak for more than 5 minutes, my brain starts to hurt. And when I started work, I of course needed to get a phone so that people could call me from work to tell me which meeting to go to. But one of the first things I did was to buy an answer phone. Now, many people get answer phones so that they can get people's messages even when they're out. And of course, that was one of the reasons. But the big reason for having an answer phone was that I could actually wait till the answer phone started operating and see who was trying to reach me on the phone, and then decide whether I wanted to talk to them or not. And it simplified my life considerably and avoided a lot of unnecessary conversation. And so, of course, I wasn't particularly eager to get a mobile phone, because that to me was similar to being in hell, since I would never be able to escape having conversations on the phone with people who wanted to talk to me. And for some reason, there's always lots of people who want to talk to me. I eventually, though, because I traveled a lot, decided that it made sense to have a mobile. One of the things that made me realize that mobile telephones could be useful was an experience when I was climbing with a friend in the north of England. And he was called by his office while we were standing on top of a hill, and they needed to change his schedule. And as a result of that, I had to change my arrangements to get back to Brussels. And it would have been impossible if I hadn't been able to use his mobile phone. And that made me think, because similar little problems could arise at any time, and it would indeed have been extremely difficult for me if I hadn't had access to a mobile phone when that particular little event happened. And so in the end, I decided to get myself a mobile phone, and it was very inconvenient, of course. I had far too many people calling me, but it made other things simpler. And I now have a better understanding of people who feel that they can't live without mobile phones. Mobile phones have opened all sorts of new areas up, mostly positive ones. They've improved the efficiency of a lot of workers, but I don't think they've been a wholly positive thing. And I don't just mean about the noise pollution and the fact that, you know, too much of their radiation might fry your brain, assuming you've still got one after watching MTV for so long. But anyway, mobile phones have had a lot of unintended consequences, and let me take you through a few. When mobile phones became popular in Asia, and particularly in Hong Kong, a lot of people started using them as a way of getting out of the office while still being reachable. They would, perhaps for good reasons, leave their place of work, and if somebody still needed to talk to them, they could deal with it. So in a sense, that's not a bad thing. The trouble is, a lot of Asian businessmen are big gamblers, and a lot of them like to go off to casinos and gamble. And this was particularly a problem in Hong Kong, where most of the gambling took place in Macau. And more Hong Kong businessmen were sneaking out of the office on Fridays in particular, and going across the water to Macau, and pretending they were still in Hong Kong when they were called by their boss or anybody who wanted to do business with them. But they were soon found out, because at the time Hong Kong and Macau were different countries, and they had different ringing tones. You know, when somebody rings a number in the UK, the beeping sound they hear is different from the sound you hear if you ring a number in Belgium. And many countries have significantly different ringing tones that you hear when you ring their telephone systems. So people in Hong Kong started realizing that when they heard a particular tone, it was actually being it was actually a sign that the person they were calling was now in the territory of Macau. So you might think that a lot of people lost their jobs in Hong Kong. Well, no, actually what happened is Macau just changed its ringtone, so it would have the same ringing tone as Hong Kong did, so that people could keep on going to the casinos during working hours, because otherwise the casinos were losing too much money if all the Hong Kong businessmen were staying in Hong Kong. So that's one small and relatively amusing example of dishonesty being encouraged by mobile phones. But there are many other ways in which mobile phones encourage the dishonest. It's much easier to lie to people if you can't see them and they can't see you. It's much easier to lie on the phone, and therefore much easier on a mobile phone. And mobile phones, of course, have the other advantage that you can text, which is even more impersonal. And you've all heard about people being fired by text message. And apparently it's quite common for people to break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend by text message as well, because they don't have the guts to actually face the other person, not even physically, but just through the voice communication systems that exist. So it's definitely encouraging a sort of impersonal and slightly dishonest or shifty type of communication. In a survey recently carried out in the UK, they found that the surprisingly high number of people had said that they found it easier to call in sick and to tell their boss lies on mobile phones than on any other medium, and that this was indeed one of the major advantages of having a mobile phone. It goes back to what I said earlier. You could be out of the office and down the pub while still pretending to be at work. Now, of course, there's a flaw in all that. If you call in sick, well, there's not much anybody can do about it. But if you're in a different place altogether, people might just notice. And this is because modern mobile phones are very sound sensitive. And so the background noise will often tell people whether you're in a pub or in the office, or whether you really are stuck in traffic, in a horrible traffic jam, or whether you were just too lazy to get out of bed and you haven't actually left your home yet. But as always, there is software to solve those problems. There's a company in the US, and I think one in Germany as well, that actually sells special software that enables you to record different sounds and to play them back while you're on the phone. So supposing you decided to go and have a drink with your friends, but you're trying to tell your husband or wife that actually you're still working because it's very, very urgent and you have to stay in the office till 10:30 in the evening. You ring them from the pub or restaurant, but in the background, instead of hearing drinking sounds and people shouting while watching a football match, what they hear is the sound of somebody on a typewriter and maybe a conversation in the background that you might have, somebody else speaking on the phone to a customer. So they hear office noises, and they might even believe you. Similarly, if for some reason you were late getting to work, and that was simply because of your own laziness or lack of organization, but you were trying to pretend that you were caught in an unpredictable traffic jam caused by an accident due to the well-known expertise of Belgian drivers in Brussels, you would be able to call your boss and make your excuses while playing the sounds of people hooting, a couple of people shouting at each other, and maybe the crashing and banging of the police trying to get rid of the wreckage. And everybody would believe you. And all it would cost you is a few dollars in order to download the appropriate software. So there you have it. I think I've actually got the address of one of the websites that produces those kinds of things. So if you let me know, I can try and get it for you. But please don't call me on my mobile. Thank you.